your podcast. What's the name of the podcast?
The Digression Sessions.
The Digression Sessions.
But you guys are at like 300 fucking episodes at this point?
I've even lost count. I think we're at like 340 or 350, something like that. So yeah, it's evolved over the years. Like I've had a few different co-hosts over the years, and it used to be like pretty guest heavy, but now it's basically just Umar and I complaining about service that we get in our neighborhood. So
you guys stand up basically.
Yeah, well, I don't know. It's weird. We're gentrifying the podcast too, I guess. We're like, shouldn't they be nicer to us? We're paying customers. That's essentially what it's become.
With it, that's why I'm mad with it. With it, that's why I'm mad with it. Straight out the trap with it. Whatever you want, whatever you need, it's on tab. Get it. That's why I'm mad with it. That's why I'm mad with it. That's where I'm at. Okay, you chasing clout? Oh no way, shit turn.
Ladies and gentlemen, it's the I'm Getting in Trouble podcast with your boy Eddie Liles. Terrence G is in the building. Our guest today is one of the best white boys that I've ever met in my life. Josh Kuderna is in the building. What's up, homie?
Wow. Out of the 6, I'm in the top 5. Is that what you're saying?
Yeah. Basically. You know I don't know that many. Like, that many like me.
Well, Eddie just tries to beat him up for no reason.
Yeah.
I don't.
Well, it's good to be here. I'm just waiting to be invited to the cookout. Is that a thing people are still saying?
No.
Only for virtue signaling points.
Yeah, now I'm not invited.
No.
Well, fine. I guess you guys aren't going to have my quinoa then.
Yo, so Josh, we talk about Josh's podcast. Josh has the Digression Sessions, right? Did I say it right?
Yeah. Yep.
So me and Josh know each other from the Baltimore scene. Somebody's mic is messing up. There it is. So, me and Josh know each other from the Baltimore scene, doing comedy in the Baltimore scene a lot, and like always had friendly encounters. But you are like with every big name comic, like everybody fucks with you, man. Like, how did that come about?
A lot of bribes, a lot of money here and there. I would say it's I don't know, just be funny and be nice. That's the biggest thing. Everybody's always like, what advice do you have? Or not like to me, but you listen to a podcast or you watch an interview and they're like, how do you do it? It's like, just be funny and be nice. Be somebody that you want to be around, Right. Don't be an asshole and be funny. So yeah.
There you go. Well, how long you been doing comedy now, though?
I've been doing stand-up. I think I've been doing stand-up like 7 years now. I was doing improv before that. So I started, I think I did improv for like 1 or 2 years before I did stand-up. So comedy like 8, stand-up 6 or 7, somewhere in there.
So hold up. You did improv with
So I was with the Baltimore Improv Group for a while. Like I took classes.
Oh, big.
And that. Yes. Yeah. So early on, I've had a cubicle job now for a long time. So I've been listening to podcasts since the beginning of it. Because I think I just had my phone and I was like, how do I distract myself or do something to entertain myself? And then podcasts, I was like, what's a podcast? So everything that I listened to was comedy related, and any interview they're like, well, yeah, I did stand up, but I also did improv for a little bit. So anybody that I thought was funny, from like Adam Carolla back in the day to Tina Fey, or anybody that was somehow involved in comedy, they're like, oh, well, I started an improv. And I was like, oh, I should do that, because stand up was too scary. I'm like, me just by myself? No, that's not good. I kind of need a team up there, that'd be great.
Are you serious? You think improv is easier than stand up?
Oh, yeah. Well, because you have people up there with you, right? And it's not like you're doing the same scene for a half hour. And if it's not going great, you're like, hey, how about another a skinny white guy gets in there.
So how do you think that that's helped you in stand-up doing the improv?
I think it was nice because it got me comfortable on stage first. So like when I did stand up, it wasn't as shocking to be on stage and have people staring at me like, okay, go, entertain us. And then, yeah, I liked being around funny people. That's still one of my favorite parts of stand up. And that's why I like hanging out with, Eddie or something like that, where it's like the show is cool, but the hang after and the hang during is usually the best
always
part.
the best.
Yeah.
Always the best.
Right.
Like we just sit outside and talk about absolutely fucking nothing.
But that's what people don't realize is that's where additional material also comes from.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I love. I mean, sometimes, that I always feel weird about. Like,
what I mean though is you sometimes get those funny stories that you can take. You have likely been a part of those conversations to where somebody says something and then you hear one person, they're like, I'm stealing that. And it's always fun to be a part of that kind of stuff.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, my thing is always, it's always weird too to have a conversation that's funny and then there's a lull and you're like, okay, so can I do that? Or are you doing the bit? Is it weird? I do the thing. Yeah.
That's I like the camaraderie shit makes me get jokes, but from shit that I say. Like it's kind of like I'm being honest. It's really like hanging out with like King Tink in Baltimore.
Yeah.
Like, bro, it's gonna be too many jokes shot back and forth that you kind of like. You're like, I don't even remember how we got here. You just start thinking about certain shit. You're like, okay, now my brain is moving in comedy. Like I try to tell people, like when I go out after a podcast, like don't get offended because now I'm like I'm in a zone and it's hard to come out of that shit. So that's why it's like being on stage. When you're on stage, you go into that zone, right? Or going before you get on stage, you get into that zone where it's just like pop off, pop off, pop off. Right. And like nobody understands that zone like comics. But taking a joke from it, I'm like, nah.
Dude, I feel so bad for girlfriends, partners of comics, especially if they come home after a good show and they're just like, woo! And they're like, hey, all right, I'm sure you're great. You're swinging right now. Okay. Not everything's a bit,
Like, I'm speaking of, has that been like affected you at all? Like girlfriend wise, doing stand up?
Never affected me. But I mean, the same way that you can be annoying to your partner, but they're never like, you're doing too many bits. Like if somebody's dating me and they're like, this is a lot of bits, I'm like, yeah, this is kind of what you're in for. I'm gonna do a lot of bits.
Like, dude, my ex-wife used to be like, can I not
hold up real quick? That was interesting. You're like, I can relate to that. My wife, actually ex-wife. If you review the court documents, she cites all my bits. There were too many bits.
That's literally what happens, right? Like, she was like, can I just talk to Eddie, not comedian Eddie Liles? Like, can I like, come on, like, it's hard to turn that shit off. Like, if you don't, you know what I'm saying? Like, nah, not sometimes, bro. I'll be having if I go on stage. I'm like this for like the next 3 hours. That's a fact. That minimum. I'm like, that's why it's just easier just to stay out with comics because like it's hard to like take that shit back home and turn it back off.
You also know you're not going to offend anybody either. And it's not like about making the worst joke ever, but if you're like, hey, AIDS diarrhea bucket or whatever, nobody's going to be like, my word. What about
the people that thought about having AIDS once? Did you think about offending them?
Did you ever think about that? There's many people that actually drown in buckets of AIDS diarrhea a year, and you're being insensitive to them.
Oh, fuck
so expand. Tell us about your creative process, your writing process, and all of that. How does that kind of formulate for you to then take it on stage, Josh?
My writing process, well, it's basically non-existent with COVID. It's so funny doing shows. You're like, I don't know if I know how to do this. You know what I mean? So it's like, do you want to do my show? And I'm like, I guess.
I don't know. We'll both find out.
Yeah. God bless you for asking. But you're essentially paying me to do an open mic. You know what I mean? It's like paying me to like stretch and be like, how do I bench press before. Let me give it a shot. Yeah, it's my writing process. I think
your creative process in general. Like, is there something you do along the way?
No, I think what we were talking about earlier is kind of in line with that. Is like, usually it can be conversational, or like if I'm telling a story to somebody about something that happened, or usually it's some type of experience or something like that. But I always feel like if I'm telling a story or explaining something to somebody and they're laughing, and I'm like, oh, there's probably a bit in there. Because I like to tell, I'm not like I'm a storyteller on stage, but I like to have like an arc to the bits and stuff. So if something is funny conversationally, that's good. Or if something happens to me in the moment, which isn't funny, but I know if I tell somebody else, audience, whoever, it's going to be funny. So that's kind of what I do. But yeah, with COVID, it's like, what the fuck, like it just seems so weird to
write about the same fucking thing every fucking day.
Yes, yeah. Or it's like, hey, how's everybody doing? 500,000 dead. Pants are weird. You ever notice? Who's dating? Not you. Your wife died of COVID. Interesting. Fun.
Yeah, I don't know what everybody like. So we had Bob Sumner on, producer of a lot of comedy shows, right? And so like,
hold on, real quick. Is my name spelled wrong in here? I'm seeing a Josh.
You did it.
Josh Kuderna? No, not
you
on
did
me.
This.
No,
oh, for real?
There's something. It's next to this duck up here. Am I the only one?
Is it next to the duck? Yeah, I think so.
Josh Kuderna. That's fair. That's the respect.
If it's misspelled, it's 100% on Eddie, because that motherfucker cannot spell.
That's a fact.
He will misspell his social security number. Okay.
I've never done that.
Honestly,
I've never done that.
See, now in this day and age, I'm like proud of you, Eddie. It's very brave of you to try to spell my name. I'm not upset. In fact, good for you. And I know this is going live, so I'm like, Eddie, you're a hero. I'm going to spell it that way the rest of my life. Thank you for
signaling. God damn it.
You know what, Eddie? I am proud of you. I'm humbled in this experience, and I am listening.
Hey, let me stop this podcast and make sure is my name spelled wrong? But you are a hero. That's just I want to make sure that this is how that ran down.
And I don't want to sound rude, and I don't know. Is there a manager of the podcast? Is there somebody I can speak to? Not to complain, but just to say how much I appreciate it.
I'm gonna be honest, bro. I like because I know Josh, and I'm just like, oh yeah, it's K-E-R. Like,
I like it because you spelled it phonetically. You're like Josh.
Yeah, exactly how I say it. Exactly how I say it. Like,
if I was bringing him on stage, this is how I would say it. Josh Kerner.
And it tells you just how fucked up Eddie's spelling and vernacular is.
No, again, let's be honest about this. This is this is different. This isn't like something that you read all the time in your fucking English book, you dickhead. This is his name that I never ever have to spell again. Never. Right. I've never spelled it before. I've never spelled it again. Like,
and it's Eddie brings up an interesting point, Terrence, because we've been conversing back and forth on Facebook, and Facebook notoriously hides your name when you message. So that's not on him. When we message back and forth, he just says into his phone, Josh Kerderners.
Yeah.
And then he messages me. He says, hey, Surrey's Josh Kerderners.
First off, Facebook does hide your name in the group messages. So let's make sure that is true. Okay. It does. It just puts Josh. It is not
Okay.
put. I didn't misspell Josh. I didn't put
I
a
wanna
U
tell you
in
something.
your O.
And again, I appreciate it. This is a teaching moment. But I do want to say I didn't end up in that group chat on accident. I didn't hop in there. You know what I mean?
And the best part about it is, Josh, is when he does that whole "Hey Siri" thing, every fucking time Siri's like, "Did you mean?"
Yeah.
No,
Yeah.
Listen, I have to
there's some words that don't have red underlines. There's a couple words that don't. It's weird.
I'll be honest with you. Kuderna did not have an underline. When I typed that shit in, it did not be like, it's supposed to be a U, right? It never gave me that suggestion. Let's just be like, first off, as a person who people like to spell my name with a fucking Y, I am upset that I did that to your name. I really am upset that I butchered your name. But that is how I say it. I'm not gonna lie to you.
Exactly.
He spells it, obviously.
Yes, you spell it, and that's how you say it, and you stick to your guns. And as a straight white man, I want to say thank you, Eddie.
You've really represented yourself well today, Eddie.
Look, somebody's going to listen to this shit. Somebody's going to listen to this shit and be like, fuck Josh Kuderna.
Like, whoa. Wait a minute.
Like, no, because what is going on in comedy, like, for white guys, right? Because Terrence doesn't count because he only does black rooms because white people don't like him. So what is going
I don't only do black rooms.
Okay,
I just don't do well in white people rooms.
He's like, they won't let me in white rooms.
Yeah.
What is the state of comedy for like white comics right now? Like, do you get that bullshit like coming at you where it's like, you're a white male, you don't understand? Like, because we don't get you're a black male, you don't understand. We just get you're a male, you don't understand. So I know it's male and then white male. So I know you guys probably get it worse than us.
No, this is why I'm on the podcast. I'd like to tell you, Eddie, specifically about discrimination in America.
This is why you're on the podcast, sir.
And finally, it's so nice to have a platform to talk about it. As a straight white man, born into a middle-class family, I haven't had the opportunity to say much. And
oh my God, honestly, tell us your story, offensive. Bro.
Well, you know how everybody got Trump checks? I never got one. I'm too rich. That's what they said. And that's gross. That's offensive. You know? No, I don't know, man. I feel like you get a little bit of that. I never get too much of it. And again, it's so weird too. Like in the past year, I've done, I don't know, 20 shows, maybe between like outdoor shows, Zoom shows, whatever. They're usually pretty good. In DC, I remember getting some flack. I feel like DC is very uptight, very politically correct. I remember when Trump first got elected, and I think he like just got in or just won the election, but I was at Big Hunt in DC, and that room's very fun, but like people packed in tight, and sometimes you could just catch an audience that was just too PC, too uptight. I don't know what it is, but like trying to out woke each other or something. But I was doing a bit where I was like, oh, my girlfriend's smarter than me. Is anybody else like their chick smarter than them? And a girl like in the third row, she goes, chick. I was like, what? Like, we can't say chick now? And she was like, yeah, it's offensive. And I was like, what? The white girl thinks chick is offensive? And then her boyfriend, a white guy, goes, why she gotta be white? And I was like, because I'm looking at her. What are we talking about?
They're the type of colorblind white people I've seen.
Oh.
Yeah.
So how do you push through that? How do you tend to typically deal with that?
Oh, you just make it
obviously. I mean, but how do you deal?
I try to riff on it. For some reason, that really bothered me in that moment. But I moved through it. I got a reaction. I was like, oh, I'm sorry. Yeah, chick. My bitch is smarter than me. So I just said that. So yeah,
that's
like
my kind of style. There we go.
Yeah, you try to riff on it and make a joke about it. Like, you know, I don't go out there to be like, hey, who's like try to be offensive or like anybody whose bitch is an idiot. Like the whole bit was about how my girlfriend is smarter than me, and I said chick, and then she got offended by that. So that drove me nuts in that moment. But I don't get too much of that, man. It's not like I'm up there and being like, I was on my yacht the other day with daddy. Like, audiences are like, shut up.
I never used to get it, even when I used to when everything was kosher and I was at Big Hunt and I was going to Big Hunt. I never got those situations, but I always got them from comics, right? Like it was like the comics were the fucking police patrols, right? In certain rooms, I always found like, even in Baltimore, which was weird when it happened in Baltimore, I was like, okay, I must be doing something wrong. Like,
right.
Baltimore is the most like Baltimore gives you the most like room to walk, all right? And like on stage, oh my god. So like when I got it in Baltimore, and I've never got it from an audience, I got it from comics, and I was just like, you're a comic, bitch. I was trying to find a joke, it didn't happen. Well, she's a feminist. What the fuck does that mean to me, bro? Like I tried to do a joke, it wasn't funny. And I'll tell you exactly the joke. It's no females on the panel, but somebody will comment one day.
Clearly, clearly, you're on a nap right now, Eddie. You need to get woke.
Yeah,
I
also love real quick. I love any guy that says females because there's you're not saying anything, but there's a little salt. There's a little extra on there. There's no females around.
I don't know. That's how they like groom you. When I was in the military, it's always females. So it's second nature that way. Like, and I didn't realize until recently that's considered offensive too. And I was like,
I know it's not offensive, but it is. It
has a connotation to it, right?
It has a little aggressive. Yeah.
Have you seen the clip where the guy was like, cisgender women, and the lady was like, no, we're not doing this shit. We're not doing this shit. And he was like, no, I'm just trying to be from the cisgender women to the trans. She was like, no.
No.
And then like that was when I was like, oh shit. You're let me say this before I offend too many people. Like,
I got the statement prepped.
Fuck that statement, son. Yeah. I mean every goddamn word I say right now. It's really weird. All right.
It's like tough to take back a statement where you're pointing. You're like, when I said bitches are stupid, I didn't know
I wasn't pointing directly in the camera at you.
Yeah. No, I'm saying like, all right, like you can't say female now. Like I've met 5 females in my fucking life that was like, you can't say female. You know what I mean? Females I meet a day. Like I work in customer service. I see females all day long that I never will see again. Ooh. Nobody was ever like, I hate female. But there is people. When
drop the F word.
Right. There's so many F words now.
So many. Listen, if you tell me that you don't like being called a female, then I'll ask you, hey, what do you prefer me say when I'm directing towards you? And let's move the fuck. You're not about to hit me with some shit.
You tell me what the fuck you want me to call you then, huh?
Yeah, that's just, tell me what you want me to call you.
Bitch, what do you want me to call you? That's more
I'm sorry. Excuse me, Mrs. Bitch. What do you want me to?
No, I'm just saying, bro. Because I like you meet niggas that do that shit. Hold on, yeah, it's too many white guys on this podcast. Let me use that word today.
I almost spit out my crap through.
I'm about to turn on an NWA album now.
You'll be all right. So, Josh, just in case you didn't know, right? And I've had the school turns on this. He's been around enough black guys where he knows it, but he doesn't know it, right?
Oh, boy. Here we go.
Yeah. It's really simple, okay? When I say nigga, I don't mean black people. When I say nigga, I just mean dudes. Simple.
Sure. And that's what
I said the same thing. And the next thing I know, I woke up.
I didn't make the fucking rule, Terrence. I didn't make the fucking rule.
You heard that though, Josh? You heard it, Terrence?
No, I did. I did hear it. Yeah. Siri. To the podcast.
So we got Terrence and Josh Kuderna.
You want to put Terrance? Terrance! Terrance!
On the
Terrence and Kuderna.
Yeah, on the streamer podcast.
I like how you use his last name in your first, you piece of shit.
Yeah, because I know you can't misspell and mispronounce Josh. The one word you can fucking...
Exactly. That's what, Josh. Have I ever called you by your full name?
No, never. I get Kuderna a lot, which is fine. But yeah, I'm almost surprised it wasn't just White Josh, the digression.
That's so funny. No, I'm just saying,
everybody would know who that is. It's like, oh, I know White Josh. Kuderna? Yeah, I know him.
I'm being honest, man. Like when a lot of white comics, when I say certain shit. Now, I'm sorry, a lot of comics it's not even a race thing. Because sometimes they're black. Actually, the feminist joint was actually black. A lot of comics are starting to get offended off of jokes, and that shit is starting to be weird as fuck to me. Like, I get, like, if a comic goes on stage and is like, I'll do this, and proceeds to go along, rape, violence, anything like that, I can see how you, like, especially if you're pointing at a person, I can see how you can take that offense to that. But if a comic's just making a joke and trying to be funny, as a comic, you sometimes just be like, that shit ain't funny, and move on.
Yeah.
Where the fuck did this shit come from where comics are now starting to police comics?
My thing is, like, I don't even pay attention to that stuff because the audience will tell you. You know, like, the only way a comic can hurt my feelings is like, man, that was really hack. You know, like, that would cut to the core versus being like, you shouldn't say that. You know, like, that, and that's also fine too, because sometimes they're trying to be like, hey, you're better than that, you know, which is almost like the same as your parents being like, I'm not mad, I'm disappointed. And you're like, that's worse. I'd rather be mad. But an audience is going to tell you, like, it's not like there's a ton of rape jokes that are crushing on stage. Even an audience is like, all right, we'll give you the leeway here, but
you got two.
Yeah,
I get
that'd be funny. Yeah, like, nobody goes on stage is like, man, my rape material crushed. It's like, did it?
40 minutes of rape material.
Yeah, did it? Like, the audience is going to tell you what is good. And, you know, it goes show to show. You get, you know, not saying that everything is good or insane or every audience is great, but you're going to have multiple shows where the audience is going to let you know how it's going. Like, barometer is laughter. That's all it is.
Right.
Yeah.
So then tell us, how do you feel about, I know you kind of, it's in that same realm. How do you feel about, like, punching down, you know, now that that's sort of a thing?
You know, again, I think anything can be funny if it's done well. Like, it's not funny to be like, you know who's stupid? Women, or, you know, or whatever. Like, oh,
you just want to stay on that one. You staying on that one.
I know, we got him. Well, it's so funny, like, how PC you have to be. I was gonna say midgets, but I'm like, even in my faux bit, you can't say that. You know, like, I'm like, hey, easy, Kuderna, you're live.
He said midget. We got to break out the statement.
Yeah, exactly. Like, we got him. That's what this whole thing was. I'm fine with it as long as it's funny. But honestly, I'm fine with anything as long as it's funny. An audience can usually sniff it out to what your intention is, right? Like, they know what you're saying, if there's hate behind it, or if you're actually saying it ironically, or if you're sarcastically trying to point out some type of difference here and there. But if you're actually being like, no, I could be at a podium saying this and it would be the same thing, people know. The audience is going to pick up on that. So regardless of what the material is it funny is the biggest. And that goes for, like, hack stuff too, where it's like, oh, I don't know, men and women do this, fine, so many comedians do that, but is it funny? That's the biggest thing.
So Terrence always brings up the white room, mainstream room versus black room, urban room thing, right?
Yes.
And what one of the things that we have all discussed with multiple people at this point is that it is a facade. It's not true, right? People just get that. Oh, you that was
I got some thoughts.
You think it's true?
Yeah. You ever notice black people be like, no, I'm kidding.
See? All right, we about to get it. Oh,
he's saving that for the urban room. All right.
Yeah. Let me know when we do the After Dark podcast. And I didn't mean that in a racist way.
I just think like white comics always do that. I'm not judging, but white comics do that, right? It's like black comics black comics or urban room comics normally do comparisons, right? The majority reason behind that is because that's when we get when we a lot of us got our love of comedy from the people that we saw on TV first, right? Because we weren't allowed to do comedy at 8 years old. All of us aren't Dave Chappelle and Martin, right? You know what I'm saying? Like we didn't start doing comedy at 12. Like we started doing comedy when we were like 18.
Also, side note, you shouldn't. There were a couple people in DC I remember seeing, they're like, this guy's 12. And I'm like, this is abuse.
Yeah, it's horrible.
Yeah, there was like a 16-year-old that was in the DC scene there for a bit. And I was like, this feels weird.
But you got to think about it. Like, we can jump into that one too. But all I'm saying is like majority of the time, you watch your comics on TV. Right?
Yeah.
And for the longest time, the majority of comics that we saw on TV, that's how they operated. So, especially as young comics. So, we didn't have the broad spectrum as well as far as like watching people that look like us on TV doing different styles of jokes. Whereas white comics, they did. This is not to try to be like, oh, racism exists. Like it has nothing to do with that part. I'm just saying. A lot of white comics.
What you saw. Yeah.
It was what we saw. So this is where I start getting offended when fucking a lot of mainstream comics do shit like that, right? It's like, oh, well, only thing he talks about is blah, blah, blah. Hold on. Is he funny? Okay.
Yeah.
If he's funny, then let's wait till he fucking grows or she grows into a better comic. But like to knock them down, I think that's why you have such a split in the rooms, right? Like I'm way too, if we go off of the hashtag quote unquote terminology of mainstream versus urban, I'm too urban for mainstream and I'm too mainstream for urban. Like that shit comes up all the time. I get a lot of urban comics who's like, he's a mainstream comic. And then a lot of mainstream comics that'll be like, he's an urban comic. And it's like, you motherfuckers don't even know the definition of these shits. I'm just a comic, bitch.
So what are your thoughts on that mainstream versus urban? Do you think it exists even?
Probably. I mean, there's gonna be so many, I think there's gonna be so many comedians on either end of the spectrum, right? Like you're gonna have a ton of the comedians with "duh" in their name, right? Like blank "duh" comedian, you know, right? And I'm talking about the white rooms, obviously. But I think there's gonna be both, right? Because it's whatever audience you're playing to, and that's how you get the stereotype. So that's the same way. It's like they'll say, Eddie, it's never gonna work in this room, but you could have 5 or 6 guys in that room that they'll say you don't work in, but 5 or 6 guys whose act is pretty much interchangeable, right? Because they're being what they saw on TV. They're not really being themselves. But and I think that goes with the same spectrum, but the opposite end, right? Where it's like, oh, I'm very cookie cutter, and the same thing of just like men and women are different. Oh, who's dating my wife? Oh, you know. So you're gonna have that, and they're the same thing. They're just the flip side of that coin. But I feel like if you're a good comedian, and the best comedians can do any room. Rooms are fucking different, though. There's no getting around that. Like the vibe is different, you know. Like a white room is going to be a little more uptight. Black room is going to give it up more, but there's also that threshold is high where it's like, it better be funny. But if you are funny, they will give it up.
They will rip the fucking room down if you're funny.
Yeah, but and if you don't though, they'll let you know.
They'll call for the Sandman like it's the Apollo days.
When we say that rooms are different, right? I don't think that, and I'm being honest with you, right? When it comes to an audience, right? It's all on. That's how I feel, right?
Mm-hmm.
If the host is a certain style of comic or like pushes a crowd to a certain laughter element, then people are going to want to see. Like, we've been to shows where you get a cookie cutter comic that hosts with the urban comic because the club is like, I just want something different. Okay.
Yeah.
And the show doesn't work. It just doesn't work, bro. Because literally, if that cookie cutter comic can't play to the style of audiences who want to see that headliner, it's going to throw the show off. Case in point, actually, I don't want to say names because it might give it away. But I saw a big name comic. And I saw a host. Everybody that came out after the show was over was like, that host was weird as fuck. Because he didn't match with the comic. He didn't match with the headline at all. So all I'm saying, I think like when we talk about like certain, like you have a style of comic, right? And a style of comic will attract a style of an audience, right? And some place, like hosts or promoters, they know that they can pack a room full of a style of a comic, right? To win. You get what I'm saying? But I don't think like when people because people used to say that shit, right? Like Big Hunt is a mainstream room. No, it's not. All just aside, it's really not to me. I'm just using it because we both played there, right?
Yeah.
DC Draft House that's just shut down. Some people on certain nights, people be like, on Friday nights, it's an urban room. No, it's not.
Right.
No, it's not. The audience came, like, this is a comedy club. People know that comedy happens here. So if you go in there and you do your shit and it's funny, people will laugh. Now, if it's a lot of black people, you'll get an uproar. If it's a lot of white people, you'll get a giggle. That's just how the fucking shit is.
Oh, dude, there's been so many shows where I've got off stage and I said, thank God there were black people in the audience because they're the best. But they're the best in the way where it's like they're just so honest. The same way where it's like, if it's funny, they will laugh. If it's not, ooh boy, you will second guess doing comedy. Like if it goes bad. But they're also just not gonna bullshit you. The same way that sometimes you can get if it's an all white audience where it's like, well, I find that funny, but I don't know if everybody, they're kind of worried about what everybody else.
Yeah.
Well, it's more so. It's like I think, like, oh, but is this person gonna judge me if I think this was funny?
I've got to look at where the one table with the 3 minorities on it. I have to make sure they're laughing first, and then I'll let the white guilt go.
Right. Which is so weird and racist too to be like, well, if they think it's funnier than I, and it's like they don't need your. They don't need your help.
It's so racist.
It is.
It's ironic because they think the comic is racist. It's like, nah, dude, you. Like the one that's being like, I'm helping them. Like they don't need your help.
I constantly say that. Those are the types of people that it says a lot more about them than it does me based on the jokes.
Yeah, like they got a ticket just like you. It's all good. Just have fun, But I think the rooms, they can be different. It's more so expectations, and it's what you're saying. It's like, and that's kind of on the club or the venue where if you have the headliner, you want to pick a host and a feature that kind of gel with that person, but you also don't want somebody that is the exact same because it's like, dude, you don't want to like step on the headliner stuff. So it's like you want to be in that vein, but not exactly the same, and kind of like complement each other. And I've worked with everybody, from working with like Tony Robbins at the Baltimore Comedy Factory, who brought me out on stage. He was like, "You should dance with me," and I'm like, "No, dude, I can't. Please don't make me do that." Like, we made the dance. Like, his merch was towels. You know what I mean? Like it was, and like working with everybody to like Angela Johnson, who is a Christian comic. So I think you should be able to work with whoever it is, whatever audience it is. If you're good, but it's tough too, because you're right. There are styles of comics that just don't gel with somebody. Like if there's a super raunchy headliner and you're like a nerdy one-liner person, you could work, but it's going to be a little tougher to fit within that.
Really, you're being really nice right now. You're being really nice right now.
Listen,
you're being really nice right now.
I just feel like funny is funny. Whatever it is, like, dude, Nate Bargatze is a clean comic. He could crush in front of any crowd. I mean it. Like, and he could. So there's those comics that can, where, yes, is it going to be easier if you're the raunchy guy just like the headliner? Sure. But if you are the audience knows it.
See, I won't say like raunchy versus clean. That's not where I'm going with that. Because Michelle is from Baltimore. Michelle, we bring her up a lot. Hopefully we get her on the podcast soon. But Michelle's from Baltimore, and she's a clean comic. And she's fucking disgusting.
This is how you get her. You just spell her name wrong. That's what all you got to do is spell her name wrong.
You asshole. You know what, you asshole.
Hey, female. You want to be on this podcast, bitch?
Fuck ass motherfucker.
Hey, bitch, I respect you. I want you on this podcast.
You are one of the funniest females in the DMV, baby girl. I gotta.
Did you just baby girl her, bro? You don't have to do
what? No,
I don't do baby girl, bro. I don't do baby girl.
No, Eddie does love. Hey, love.
I do love. I say I love. I love. Okay, I'm a sweet talker, bro. I got.
You fucking speaking as well as you spell right now.
Hey, listen. No, but Michelle's name is actually her name. That's how you say her name is Michelle. I only know that because I called her Michelle, and she was like, "No." Like she stopped me off the brizzy. So fuck you both. No, Josh is Josh frozen up on us?
Yeah, it looks like it.
I think he froze up on us, man. Fucking A. I fuck with Josh, bro. That's my guy, man. Yeah,
I like his energy. Laid back, but funny.
Yeah, he's like very what's the name with his words? Like he's very exact with his words. He doesn't want his words to be fucked up.
Yeah.
Like I think he probably got a call. That's probably why he jumped out.
Yeah.
Did you get a call?
No, you were saying disrespectful things about women, so I left.
You piece of shit! Did you just throw me under the bus? God damn! I thought we were cooler than that.
He said, "Fuck this bullshit can statement. I'm out."
Yo, So the last question before we wrap up. You don't like young comics getting into comedy? What is that about, bro?
What do you mean, young comics?
You don't want a 12-year-old just to start comedy?
No.
The funny part is Eddie didn't even realize you had misspelled your last name again.
Oh my God. Kuderna than us? I never said that shit. Never said that shit.
Might as fucking well.
First of all, I said Kuderna. Not Kuderna than us.
No, that's how you spell it. That's it right there.
I'm so mad right now. I'm so mad right now.
Don't be mad.
No, dude, so you don't like 12-year-olds starting to do comedy? What the fuck is that about? Why you such an ageist, bro? Why are you such a cisgender older white male being an ageist? Why are you doing that?
Oh no.
Oh, this is how
all of them in there.
Punching down.
My internet connection isn't good. I hate children. No. Sorry about my internet, but
no, you good, bro.
No, those kids don't know what they're doing. So the only one that I saw I think he was like 14 maybe, and his dad was clearly writing all of his jokes.
Yeah.
Like you could see him on stage and his dad was like mouthing it of just like,
I did. Yep.
and then she said, I'm like, this is not healthy. This is not healthy at all.
It's terrible.
So yeah, no, you shouldn't be doing comedy until you're 18. You can vote, then you can go up there and be like, here's my thoughts on whatever, you know?
Yeah.
I think 12 is a good age. I'm not 14 at least.
Wow.
Like 14.
Cut that out. He's not.
I'm being honest.
He's not talking about comedy though. That's the problem.
That's true. It's very true.
I started at 9. That's not the point.
You
The
pervert.
point. I'm bigger than. I was both of you motherfuckers size at 9, you dickhead. So
And you still have the toddler wiener.
All right. All right.
Okay. So anyway, other than dick news, no, I'm just saying, like, if you can start a little bit earlier, right? What do we say?
Yeah.
Most comics are 10 years old before they're like good. So I mean, 10 years in before they're good. So if you can just start at like 16, by 26, you're already starting to make moves.
No, you haven't.
You already ran the lessons.
No, you haven't. Because what are you talking about?
I agree. What subject
Nothing.
matter? What perspective can you offer at that young of an age that's so out there and funny?
Nothing. I'm not saying. I think this again. This is why I said 10 years. I'm not saying this motherfucker should be headlining fucking major theaters at fucking 16. I'm
Also,
saying
they won't.
I'm just saying, like, if you start going to open mics at like 16, 14, 16, I don't see anything wrong with it if you really want to be a comic. Like, get up there and talk about school. People want, listen,
I've seen how creepy some comics can be.
Everything, yeah, but listen, like, what? Like, so then females shouldn't do comedy because there's a lot of fucking dirtbag male comics in the game, too.
I didn't say that. Eddie, you said that. I can't believe that you just came on the podcast
to
just say you don't think females should do comedy.
This is what white people do. They try to change your words, and they know exactly what you mean, but they misdirect that shit to fucking flip it on you. Thanks, Fox News. Go ahead. Keep going. You fuck ass. No, I'm just saying, like, if you anything can be funny, right? If anything can be funny, if a kid learns how at 16 learns how to make jokes about homework funny, I'm not going to relate to them, but if they're funny, they're funny. By the time they hit 22, 23, 24, and they had some real experiences, they've already went through the shit that we went through at 25. That's all I'm thinking. That's all I'm saying. Like, we didn't know how to turn every joke funny beforehand. You know what I mean? Like, it was certain we had to pick up on it.
Yeah.
We had to pick up on how to make jokes funny before. So that's all. You go ahead and speak your pieces.
Is the misogyny done? Because it was literally too much for my internet connection. Xfinity sent me an email, and they're sending. My bill is going to have a misogyny tax on it because of Eddie.
Oh my God, Jesus!
That's why they go by Xfinity, so it's non-gender denominational.
That's true.
Oh my God!
It's like Latinx.
As opposed to Verizon.
Latin Xfinity.
I guess I should read the statement now. Fuck it.
We cannot have a serious conversation on this fucking podcast. Thanks. Thanks,
so,
guys.
Josh, why don't you tell everybody what you got coming up, man? What shows you got? What mics? What are you doing now?
This is so funny. I just booked some stuff this morning. If we did this podcast yesterday, I'd be like, nothing. I will be at Magoobies next Thursday, I believe, for a benefit show for Magoobies. Sorry, I'm pulling that up just to make sure here. The show To Save Our Stages next Thursday, March 11th at 8 p.m. at Magoobies. I think all benefits go towards the club. Like, none of the comics are getting paid. But yeah, it's going to be a good one. Rob Marin's on it. Justin Schlegel, Tommy Sambazo, Violet Gray, Eric Woodworth, Ashley Pontius is putting it on. Very excited to do that. I love Magoobies. Nice. And then I think April 7th, I'm doing Taylor Taylor's room in Columbia. Taylor Zaruba. What's his room called? It's like
Spell
the
it.
science. It's like the. It's KU. But I'm doing the brouhaha on April 7th. But yeah, follow me. I'm at Josh Kuderna. It's spelled just like it's written here on the screen. So just say into your phone at Surrey, please follow Josh Kuderna, and I think it'll do it. I think it'll be fun. But yeah, then my podcast is the Digression Sessions with my good buddy Umar Khan.
Yo, that's what's up, bro.
We appreciate you coming on,
like the podcast. I've been listening to the last couple. Why do y'all?
Thanks, man.
Are y'all going to be doing it weekly soon, or y'all still going to be just doing it?
We try, man. We shoot for every Monday. Used to be a lot more regimented, but yeah. So we try for every Monday, and we haven't really had any guests. Like I said, it's usually just Umar and I catching up and riffing on some stuff. But we had Tim Dillon on last year, and that was a lot of fun. Yeah, that was very cool.
Him with the White House.
Yeah, Tim's great, man. He's really good.
Electric personality.
Yeah, and great interview, great hang, like such a nice guy. So he did Umar's show, I think, like 2 years ago, and then that's when Umar and I were living together. Maybe more, maybe like 3 years ago now, but maybe more. I don't even know. It all kind of blends together. It was the year was 1952, but Umar has this show, Gin and Jokes, at Joe Squared, and he had Tim Dillon on. And he was like, hey, do you mind if the headliner stays here tonight? I was like, that's fine. And it turned out to be Tim Dillon, and I actually auditioned at Magooby's to feature that night. Went well, came back, then we all just like hung out. It was so cool. The nicest guy, telling all kinds of stories and stuff. And but yeah, so we had him on. That was good. But yeah, the rest of it is mostly just me and Umar. We have other like kind of local people on and stuff. We had a good one with Jason Weems. But yeah, check it out. It's pretty good. If you want to hear two yuppies complaining, that's fine.
Which y'all do that so well. Ladies and gentlemen, the I'm Gonna Get in Trouble podcast. It's Josh Kuderna.
With it. That's why I'm mad with it. With it. That's why I'm mad with it. Straight out the trap with it. Whatever you want, whatever you need, it's on tap.